Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today I will be talking about Joe from Love is Blind season 9. I just discovered today that he has a new girlfriend named Avery, and it seems like they've been dating for like a little over a year now. So yeah, she did a podcast called The Reality Receipts and kind of told the story of like how her and Joe met, and also spilled some interesting tea about some of the other cast members. So let's jump right in. The first thing I have to say is, what is wrong? Guys, what is wrong with Casey? Can this girl rest? Like, can she please? I am tired. Can she give it a rest? I'm like, why is it that every time she's brought up, it's about her doing something just terrible? Her character, her morals are so out of place. Like, she should not be dating any more men. She needs to be in therapy. Casey, if you're watching this, therapy. Please stop chasing after any man. That's not it. We're all tired. We're tired, okay? First it was Patrick. You did your theatrics with Patrick, and you're still not done doing theatrics. So let's get into this interview. So the interview starts out, and the interviewers want to know basically how Avery and Joe met, right? And Avery kind of explains that there was a guy on the show named Dylan, who isn't somebody that actually was part of the couples that they, focused on, but that he started dating one of her best friends. Through that, she was introduced to Joe through Dylan, right? So it seems like it was like a friend's of friend type of thing, okay? They wanted to know if Joe was pretty upfront about him being on the show. And Avery says that Joe was very forthcoming with the fact that he was on Love is Blind. And Avery also mentions that she's never actually watched the show before. So I guess she didn't really know like the premise of it and the concept of it, but Joe was like trying to let her know, I'm going to be on this show. It hasn't aired yet, just to kind of give her a warning. So he didn't like try and hide that at all. So I was like, okay, that's good. Okay. And then the next thing they want to know, obviously, is if who she saw on screen after watching this season of Love is Blind, like the Joe she saw that we all saw as viewers, is that who Joe really is, right? And Avery kind of basically goes on to say like, it's not really who he is, and that she's seeing like a different side of him on the show. She does acknowledge that there are some communication styles that she's noticed in Joe that are pretty spot on, but that overall he's pretty different from what we see on TV. Now guys, I'm not trying to judge, but like, I don't know why I find that hard to believe. I find that, let me know what you guys think, but I do find that hard to believe. I do. I really do. But she's got to stand by her man. So, okay, we'll go with that. Okay, then they talk about the allegations regarding Joe drinking and how some people were insinuating that he was possibly doing something more than drinking, like drugs, because of how out of it he was, specifically after they were, or while they were in their honeymoon, when he decided to take a nap and he woke up. So basically, they were joking and the interviewer started laughing. Avery's laughing, the interviewers are laughing, they're all laughing and kikiing and saying, oh, it was clearly just alcohol. Like, how could it have been anything more? What is wrong with people? And all I have to say is, I found it a little odd, only because if a lot of people are saying, based off of what we saw as viewers, that it seemed like it was something more than just alcohol, I don't think that us as viewers are all crazy. I'm not saying that he was on anything. I'm not, because I can't make that kind of, I don't know, right? I can't say that for sure. But all I can say is the way we perceived it, how did so many people just perceive Joe wrong? I mean, come on, So I was kind of like, come on, like, I don't think it's just insane that a whole, like thousands of people thought that Joe could be on something more. I'm not saying that it's true, but the way they were laughing, they were making it sound like the way we saw it as viewers was just crazy, like something they couldn't imagine. Like, how could it be more than alcohol? So I thought that was interesting. I was like, okay, I guess everybody just saw it wrong. Interesting. So I was like, I didn't love that, because in my head, I'm like, why don't you dig into why we thought that, right? Why the viewers thought that it could have been more, instead of just laughing at that entire, I was confused. So Avery obviously mentions that she doesn't like how Joe's been kind of like dehumanized online. Some of the comments that have been made are just terrible. And the messages that he's gotten are terrible. And now I agree with Avery on this, okay? Because I think one thing I'll say is, even with these reviews that I do and how I talk about people, like, nobody deserves death threats. Nobody deserves to even be bullied online and have people call them names. Nobody deserves that. Like, this is a show. It's not that serious, right? And we're judging based off of what we see. But I think people have to remember that the show is also very edited. And there's a lot that we don't see. There's a lot that we also don't fully understand about this process, right? So to anybody out there that is doing that, I'm never going to stand by that, right? Like, this is still like fun and games. Like, we're talking, it's a show, right? Let's remember that it's a reality TV dating show. Let's not take it that far, right? So I agree with Avery. He doesn't deserve that, okay? Joe has issues, but he doesn't deserve to be called names or to have death threats or anything that's been coming his way. I will never stand by that, okay? So I was like, I agree with that. So overall, the interview, I was kind of disappointed a little bit in the sense that there were a lot of things that people were unhappy with Joe about and the way he handled the situation with Madison that they never really fully addressed, right? I felt like if anything, they were kind of glossing over things and not really like voicing the issues that we had with Joe's behavior and how he treated Madison, right? So for one, as viewers, we could all see during the reveal, right, that Joe was not fully attracted to Madison. He was not really happy with what he saw, right? We even see him on camera mentioning that he dates women that have a different body type, right? And at one point, I think Madison even asked him what his type was. He couldn't really fully straight answer. He gave like a vague answer or something. Like, there were signs, and it's not just about the reveal. Even after the reveal, there were things that Joe was showing where you could tell he was not fully committed, right? On top of this, on top of all of this, and him feeling that way about the way she looks at the reveal and everything, they were sleeping together, right? Not only were they sleeping together, Joe was also continuing in this process with Madison, right? But as viewers, we could see that Joe was not fully in it. This is the issue that people have with Joe. It's the behavior. It's the fact that, like, he didn't just call it quits when he knew it wasn't going to go anywhere, right? Nobody is mad that he decided that Madison was not his person. It's the way he went about it, right? It's the fact that he didn't just get out when he knew he was not in it. He stayed in it. And honestly, let's keep it a buck, guys. As viewers, we know why, right? A lot of people are speculating he wanted that airtime. He wanted that airtime. You know, like, come on. What other reason would there be? Or else he should have ran at the reveal. You know? And so these are the issues we have with Joe. It's the fact that he didn't leave when he knew she wasn't really the one, right? He dragged it out till we got right before the wedding to then call it off. This is the problem. And this is what was not addressed in this interview, which I didn't love. You know, I was like, that is the whole point. You know, how are you going to do an interview and talk to his girlfriend and not address that, right? So I was like, don't love that, right? We're just going to skip over the reasons why a majority of the internet is even dragging Joe in the first place. Interesting. So yeah, so then it gets interesting. And Avery basically explains that she knew Joe, or I'm sorry, Avery basically explains that she knew Madison before Joe, right? Before she started dating him, before she even knew about Joe, and that she's also close to Kate, right? And then Avery kind of goes into details about how Denver is not a very big place. And like, it seems like the social circles are somewhat mixed up. Like, people know people, you see people out, you run into people. Like, it's not a very big, like, you know, place, community, right? So basically, Avery explains that her and Madison have always been cool. That even now, up till today, they follow each other on social media. Like, she has no qualms with Madison. Like, they're straight, right? And she just explains that she's also friends with Kate from the show. And then she kind of starts to talk. So basically, the interviewers at one point ask her about what happened with Casey, right? And this is what was interesting, because basically after the show ended, we heard rumors that Casey and Joe had dated for a period of time, right? So the interviewers wanted to know, what was that about? Is that true? What was that timeline like, right? And Avery basically goes on to explain that Casey has burned a lot of bridges in their friend group and that she has caused a lot of trouble in these ways. And, she's kind of just saying that like Casey hasn't been acting right. Obviously the interviewers are probing and they're like, wait, go into detail. Avery explains that even after she started seeing Joe, Casey was still calling and texting Joe on the weekends sometimes. Maybe she was drunk or whatever, but she would hit up his phone after knowing that Avery and Joe were together, okay? And then Avery explains that Casey was doing this while also trying to befriend Avery. So they knew each other. It seems like they were like acquaintances, but then on the side, she's trying to like talk to Joe, text him, call him. Crazy. Just crazy. Am I surprised to hear about this though? No, because we all saw Casey on air and we saw what she was like. I guess I thought that maybe what we saw wasn't really who she was and translated into real life. But as we can see, it's even worse than we imagined, guys. So she's sitting here basically still trying to get with Joe, knowing Joe has a girlfriend, also trying to befriend this girlfriend, and then steal her man on the back end. Casey, these are the types of women that you have to run from. It's crazy, crazy, crazy. So then Avery then goes on to explain that at some point they went to a pool party. Joe was there, Casey was there, a bunch of other people were there, and Avery ended up leaving early, right? And she got a text from a friend that was still at this pool party saying that Casey was trying to sit on Joe's lap. So you're telling me that Avery was at this event, she leaves, and Casey is still trying to get with Joe. Can this girl rest? I'm so tired. Like it's crazy. The character, the morals, everything is just so messed up. No, like all I can say is I know exactly why Casey is single. She is the problem. To think on her Love is Blind thing, she was talking about how she was cheated on all the time, that she was cheated on. No. Trying to make people feel bad for her. Trying to make people feel like, oh, I just need to find a guy that won't cheat on me. She's the problem, guys, okay? It sounds like, yeah, she's an issue. So I wasn't surprised to hear this, but then I also was surprised because after everything that happened with the show, you would think that Casey wasn't out here still acting crazy. Like, I didn't know she had the capacity to do this. I'm really surprised. Why am I surprised? I don't know. I think I give people the benefit of the doubt, but it's just crazy. So then Avery goes on to explain that Casey is very like male-centered, male-focused, and that she's basically not her girl. Like, they're not close. They probably never will be. And I don't blame her. Like, you need to run from women like Casey. Run. Whenever a woman is male focused and that's all they talk about, that's all they care about, they're willing to leave you in the dust for a man, you need to run. Because they will do you dirty. They will always do you dirty. Run for the hills. Like, run for the hills. Another thing that I heard them mention in the interview that I found, I was like, okay, is that the interviewers mentioned that they didn't think that Joe didn't want to continue with Madison because he wasn't attracted to her. The interviewers were saying that they had terrible communication, Madison and Joe, and that Madison was very passive aggressive as well, and that these were the factors that Joe was considering when he decided to end things with Madison. Now, do I think that Joe and Madison had bad communication? Yes, definitely yes. Do I think that was the sole reason why Joe called things off? No. I think two things can be right at the same time, if that makes sense. I don't think it was just about the communication. I think that him not being fully attracted to her also played a factor in that. I think they're now trying to say that that just wasn't true at all. And I think another thing that I have to say is people don't understand that men are kind of strange, and like they do sleep with women that they're not really attracted to. Like, they do. Unfortunately, I think it's a terrible thing to do, but I know that this is something that they do, right? So just because they slept together and Joe would do this or that doesn't mean that he was really fully attracted to her. It doesn't, and I think that that is one of the things that I really didn't like about Joe. And that's another reason why people are dragging him on the internet. The fact that he did do all these things with Madison, knowing full well, like, she wasn't someone he was fully attracted to, right? So I think two things are right at the same time. Yes, they had terrible communication. Yes, Madison can be passive aggressive and sometimes even annoying. Yes, I agree. But I think it was a combination of all of that, and then him also not being attracted to her and her not really being maybe his physical type on the outside. I think these are all happening and all contributed to why he didn't want to continue. So yeah, I don't think it was just one reason of the communication. Yes, and then the last thing I wanted to mention from this interview that I thought was interesting is Joe's girlfriend, right, Avery, is a dating coach. And it seems like she coaches men in New York City, right, and helps them with their dating in some way. So yeah, I didn't really expect that, guys. I was just like, that's interesting. And I read the comment section under this interview, and the comment section had me cracking up because people were saying things like, why is this girl acting like she's won a prize? She's so excited to like claim Joe and say that this, she's dating him. And basically just trying to say that she shouldn't be so excited to come out and say that she's, the girlfriend of Joe. That this is not something that you should be excited about at all. And the way I see it is, if this is her man, she's got to claim him, right? I don't necessarily think she needed to do this interview. I do think that's weird. And people were commenting about that as well on this interview, like in the comment section saying, why is she even talking about this situation? The reunion is about to drop. Why does she feel like she needs to even do this interview at all? It is odd, and it's giving, maybe she's trying to get in on a little bit of the clout because she obviously knows that everything that happened with Joe and Madison this season was very popular and very controversial, and that people are very opinionated about it. So I don't really know why she felt the need to do this interview, but at the end of the day, when women are like, oh, I got to stand by my man, like my man, that's what Avery was giving. Yeah, she knows Joe did wrong, but she's like, that's my man. I got to stick beside him. No matter what, I just didn't like that they didn't talk about the reasons why Joe, the primary reasons why people are dragging him on the internet. I felt like that conversation wasn't really discussed. I don't know, something about it was just, and maybe that wasn't the point of the interview, but I thought that there were some questions and things that they could have asked Avery in regards to Joe and how he's being painted online that were not asked, right? Because let's be real, Joe is not getting this hate and stuff for no reason, right? There are reasons. I'm not saying that the hate that he's getting is in any way valid, but I'm just saying that there's a reason why he's being perceived the way he's being perceived. And I don't think that was discussed. So that was a little bit disappointing. But so let me know what you guys thought. I would love to know your thoughts. Even if you disagree with some of the things I said, please comment below and let me know what you think. The 12th episode drops tomorrow, so I'm really excited about that, and I will definitely be reviewing that, so stay tuned. Like, comment, and subscribe so that you can get my notifications, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.